task is to write a letter to a lactation consultant requesting a breastfeeding for Mrs. Sylvia Charles, mother of baby Dylan Charles, who is 6 weeks old. Here you are a maternal and child healthcare nurse working at the Romoville Community Childcare Service where the mother and her baby attended for routine 6-week checkup. Let us look into the case note first. If we look into the case note in detail, we can see there are 2 dates given. That is the today's date and the discharge date. Here you have to mention the discharge date in the introduction paragraph of the letter, and the date of the letter will be today's date since it is specifically given in the case note. It is essential to know when the service should be provided. The name and age of the patient is important and should be mentioned in the reference part of the letter. Here, the address and birth history are all relevant. However, you can avoid some of the numerical listed in the objective. We can see a lot of information provided under the date of 15th January 2012, mentioning about the situation the baby was presented by her mother, along with the problem she reported. Taking all these points, we have to prepare a letter. Now, let us see how we can write a letter with the help of a sample letter written by a candidate from Saudi Arabia. The address and date written are correct. The salutation written is wrong. Here you must use a designation in the case note, that is, Dear Lactation Consultant. The reference written is wrong. Here the patient is baby Dylan Charles, so you must use the baby's name as a reference. Moving to the introduction paragraph, I am writing this letter to refer Mrs. Sylvia Charles, who requires lactation consultation from your facility following discharge today. Here you don't have to write this letter because we already know this is a letter. The person who writes and the person who reads know that this is the letter, and therefore we can avoid using this phrase. Coming to the last part of the introduction, it says following discharge today, which is wrong because she is already discharged. After making these changes, the introduction becomes I am writing to refer Miss Sylvia Charles and her baby as Mrs. Sylvia requires breastfeeding support and assistance from your service, which is a perfect introduction. Moving to the second paragraph, over the past weeks, Mrs. Sylvia Charles delivered a healthy baby Dylan by a normal vaginal birth. Baby's birth weight was 3,400 grams. There was no any antenatal and postnatal complications. Here, the information provided is good, but the way it is written is not up to the mark. Over the past week is a wrong usage since it's not happening continuously. So you can simply use last week. It would have been much better if you could frame the paragraph in such a way that Mrs. Sylvia delivered a healthy baby boy Dylan Charles via normal vaginal birth with a weight of 3,400 grams. She had no antenatal and postnatal complications, which is much better. Moving to the third paragraph, on review today, Mrs. Sylvia Charles complaining of constipation and passing hard stools once in every 3 days, requesting for the stool softeners or prune juice. Here, this paragraph doesn't give any information regarding whom it is implying, whether the baby or the mother. But actually, the mother is reporting about her baby having the problems. Therefore, we can rewrite the sentence like Mrs. Sylvia reported constipation and passing hard stools for Dylan Charles for every 3 days. So she requested the stool softener for him, which is better. Moving to the fourth paragraph. Since then, Mrs. Sylvia Charles suffered from fever for few days. Mother-in-law came to visit the baby and changed feeds to formal and extra powder in feeds to improve baby's weight. As Mrs. Sylvia Charles worried of not having enough breast milk and concerned to give formal feeds along with breastfeeding. Here this paragraph again doesn't give any information regarding whom it is implying, whether the baby or the mother. We can rewrite the first sentence like Mrs. Sylvia's mother-in-law came to assist her when she fell sick, and her mother-in-law changed bottle feed to formula with extra powder to gain weight. Mrs. Sylvia is worried about inadequate breast milk for baby and concerned about formal feed along with the breastfeed, which is better. Moving to the fifth paragraph, on examination, reflexes was normal, slightly lethargic and abdominal heaviness, vital signs in normal range, baby was weighing 4,200 grams. Here the information mentioned is okay, but this information has to be placed in the third paragraph, as the information provided here are the findings on examination and the information regarding the review are mentioned in the third paragraph. The ideas containing similar ideas should be tied together. Moving to the last paragraph, it would be grateful if you will see Mrs. Sylvia Charles and Dylan Charles and educate the mother regarding preparation of formula feeds, importance of formula breastfeeding, and mainly advise to keep the baby cool in hot weather, formula feeds to be supplied with water. Lastly, she has to return to review in 48 hours. Here the first sentence is too lengthy and confusing, so you can break them like, it would be grateful if you will see Mrs. Sylvia Charles and a baby and educate the mother regarding preparation of formula feeds, importance of formula breastfeeding. Please advise to keep the baby cool in hot weather and how to prepare formula feed with water. Which is much better. Coming to the last sentence, it is much impressive to write like, lastly, she has to be reviewed in 48 hours. The wind-up sentence and sign of return are correct. The letter missed an important information, that is, this is Mrs. Sylvia's first baby. Even though the letter is somewhat alright, the lack of organization and improper formation of sentences has gone down. Considering all these factors, this letter can merit for a score of 290. Thank you.
New method for OET learning. How are you preparing? Online or offline? For speaking and writing, you can get tutor reviews. How will you be able to manage your reading and listening? How can you manage your self-practice easier than ever before? Learn OET in Merlin's way. Most successful OET learning method from world's best online trainer. Chat now, mentormerlinexam.com.